Welcome to the channel. My name's Rob and I'm just an Englishman learning about the world. And in today's video, we're going to look at some interesting things about New Zealand. And if you enjoy this video, you know what to do. Go down there, hit that like button, and you'll help me out if you subscribe.
Welcome to Top 10 Archive. Ahoy, fellow archivist. Prepare for land as we approach the island country of New Zealand. You may know its landscape from The Lord of the Rings.
Do
you really know New Zealand as it deserves to be known?
No.
Number 10. New Zealand cuisine. We all have our favorite cuisines, all varying depending on what part of the world you hail from. New Zealanders have their own selection of dining favorites, some stemming from Maori roots, such as sweet potato, and others like pork influenced by European settlers. One popular tradition that has stuck around is hangi, a method of cooking that uses heated rocks buried in a pit oven. Additional influence in New Zealand food stems from the British Isles. Fish and chips, custard squares, pavlova, and meat pies are popular in modern New Zealand.
Oh, that is a real controversial comment that he's made there. Pavlova was made by the Kiwis. It's not a British thing. It is a Kiwi thing that the Aussies stole and the UK turned into Eton mess. So if I looked at the cuisine of New Zealand, I wouldn't really know what their favourite foods are and things. All I can look at would be the influences. So, for example, you would look at the British going across to taking their foods. You know, the pies and things like that I think that's probably an accurate one. But then you'd also look at what's close to them. So, for example, the Asian cuisine. But I think a lot of countries now that are, as you say, westernized, if that's the right word, I think have similar cuisines anyway. You know, over here in the UK, I think our national dish is a curry. But you would assume that with places like Bangladesh, Pakistan, India. But no, our national dish is a curry. So you think maybe with New Zealand, you might take the influence from, I said, Asia, Singapore, Japan maybe, but you'll mix that with the influence of obviously the British going down and taking land.
All accompanied with a budding wine and beer industry. Number 9. Inventions. In the medical field, we have inventors like Colin Murdoch to thank for the disposable hypodermic syringe and the child-proof medicine cap. Additionally, Murdoch was known for his creation of the modern tranquilizer gun. A little less imperative to saving human life, but still impressive nonetheless.
Important.
For the creation of the egg beater, burglar-proof windows, and the spiral hairpin, credited to New Zealand immigrant Ernest Godward. If you've ever watched YouTube videos of people rolling down hills in giant plastic balls, you can thank David and Andrew Akers for their creation of the Zorb.
The Zorb. They are so, because you've got like Zorb football now, but I think it's more of a fad that didn't really last very long. I know it's probably still about, but it's not a big thing that is going to last the test of time. But there's some interesting things. Maybe I'll have to do a video actually learning more about the inventions that Kiwis have made, what they've discovered and what they've created. That would be an interesting video to learn about.
Number 8. Famous New Zealanders.
Taiki Watiti.
One of New Zealand's greatest claims to fame is Ernest Rutherford. A chemist and physicist, Rutherford is best known for being the first individual to split an atom and created a credible theory of atomic structure, for which he won the 1908 Nobel Prize in Chemistry.
Nice.
Other notable Kiwis include filmmaker Peter Jackson, Russell Crowe, Sam Neill, The Flight of the Conchords, Bruce McLaren, and Catherine Mansfield. Nancy Wake earned notoriety during World War II when she became the Gestapo's most wanted person, while Charles Upham became the first soldier to earn 2 Victoria Crosses for one war. On YouTube, be sure to check out Shirley Setia, Wacky Wednesday, and Shannon Harris from Shan XO.
The most famous, I would say now, maybe this was done a while ago, but the most famous Kiwi I know is Taiki Watiti. And I might not even be saying his name right. Taiki Wakiki? It's something like that. And it's really hard to remember which order. Oh, anyway. I think he's the most famous Kiwi I know. But I thought Russell Crowe was Australian. Well, maybe I'm completely wrong. What do I know? Sure he was Australian. Is he not? Wildlife.
Number 7. New Zealand wildlife. You may have heard us called New Zealanders Kiwis a time or two,
After the
and
kiwi
now
bird.
you finally get to know why. While many people would likely associate this terminology with the fruit, the New Zealand nickname was derived from the flightless bird native to the country. Joining the kiwi on land are New Zealand's only native land mammal, the long-tailed and short-tailed bat. Traverse this beautiful country and you'll come to find that it is a haven for seabirds, playing host to albatross, New Zealand dotterel, New Zealand fairy tern, penguins, and Westland petrel. What New Zealand lacks in native land mammals, it makes up for in weta, of which there are over 70 different species inhabiting the land. Number 6. New Zealand tourist attractions. Probably the most notable tourist attraction in New Zealand is not some man-made structure, but rather a series of caves found in the King Country region of New Zealand. The Waitomo Caves are not your average holes within the earth, especially when you get to the Waitomo Glowworm Caves.
These look absolutely stunning. I've watched this on a different video, and just if we come to New Zealand, have to do that. And it may just now be more touristy because, you know, when we went to Australia, it's, oh, you just went to the touristy places, but that's sort of what people do, right? And maybe that is just a touristy place now, but it looks so cool and something to have in your memory.
These caves are home to an incredible spectacle, an underground light show provided by nothing more than thousands of living glowworms. If insects and enclosed spaces aren't your thing, maybe you'll enjoy the Sky Tower and its 328-meter or 1,076-foot view over Auckland. Looking to avoid heights and want something a bit more natural, you'll probably want to stop by the thermal wonderland of Rotorua, the Bay of Islands, Tongariro National Park, or Kaikoura. Number 5. Women's suffrage and the $10 note. Women's right to vote has been a hot-button issue in just about every culture, and New Zealand is no exception. Up until the late 19th century, women were barred from being involved in politics. Enter Kate Shepherd, establisher of New Zealand's Women's Christian Temperance Union. With backing from the union, Shepherd sought to instill women's suffrage and introduced the first bill in 1887, followed by a pamphlet in the following year titled 10 Reasons Why the Women of New Zealand Should Vote. By September 19, 1893, women of New Zealand were able to vote, and November 28th of the same year would also mark the first election they could vote in. That year, nearly 2/3 of women voted in the election, and Shepherd's efforts found her on New Zealand's $10 note.
I wonder what the kind of the ladder of when women were able to vote in different countries and where different countries stack up. So who's been the latest country to allow women to vote? Who was the first country to allow women to vote? Was Australia the first one to let women vote? Got a possible feeling. I might be wrong. But I think it may have been on one of Tony Robinson's programs. Can't remember.
Number 4. The Treaty of Aucklands. In 1951, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States entered into a security agreement that bound them to cooperate when it came to military issues in the Pacific Ocean. Though a focal and integral part of the Australian, New Zealand, United States Security Treaty, New Zealand's anti-nuclear stance brought a change to the treaty. With the country and the majority of its people pro-nuclear disarmament, and the United States having declared itself a nuclear power, a discord started to form, eventually leading to the U.S. suspending its obligations to New Zealand. With the pact essentially dissolved, despite New Zealand never officially withdrawing, the United States considered the country a friend, but not an ally. In 2010, the two countries signed the Wellington Declaration, a move that wiped out any strain from the ANZUS dispute.
Wow, that's interesting. That's so. See, for me, it's a tricky one because I said I'm not left, I'm centre left. But there's part of me that thinks, yeah, we should just get rid of our nuclear stuff. But it is a nuclear deterrent. It's not that you're going to use it, but and you've always got those psychos, you know, China and Russia, for example, that have them. North Korea as well. And so there's part of me that thinks, let's get rid of them. Let's get rid of them. Do we need them? Can we just pretend that we have them, but we don't actually have them? Or do we just keep them, but it's costing us lots of money to maintain them? It's a real tricky discussion, that one. But that's interesting how that kind of relationship changed with the United States and New Zealand. That's really interesting.
Number 3. Film friendly. If you're in
Love
need
films.
of a place to film your movie, you may be able to find support and amazing landscape in New Zealand, one of the film industry's most prominent locales. The rolling hills of New Zealand have been featured in such theatrical epics as The Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Hobbit trilogy, Peter Jackson's King Kong, and other productions like Stephen King's The Tommyknockers and The Frighteners. Its environments, from sandy beaches to snowy Alps, provide incredible diversity for a myriad of needs. But the look of a movie is not always the driving factor. Qualifying productions that film in New Zealand can receive a cash grant of 20%, along with an additional 5% for those that can demonstrate economic benefits.
Wow, that's cool. I suppose that is a big reason. New Zealand has such diverse locations that you can film. You know, if you look at Lord of the Rings, you've gone from rolling hills to mountains, and such differences in scenes, and you're able to do it in one country rather than having to travel all around the world to get different shots. So, you know, plus then certain financial benefits. That's a plus, right?
Number 2. Celebrating the All Blacks. What do Kiwis do when they're not helping in film productions, cooking Hangi style, or visiting the glowworm caves? They support the All Blacks, their local men's rugby union team.
Local.
In 1870, Charles Monroe is said to have introduced New Zealand to the sport of rugby, which he became familiar with at Christ's College in Finchley, England. May 1870 was the first game ever played by New Zealand players, and the original All Blacks emerged in 1905 during a tour of the British Isles. In 1987, 2011, and 2015, the All Blacks took the Rugby World Cup Championship, becoming the first team to claim 3 World Cups. Even at their worst, the All Blacks typically only lost 1 game and often placed in the top 3.
I think everyone in the rugby world and outside of the rugby world knows how good the All Blacks are. I would say at the moment, Ireland are number 1, France number 2, and Kiwis are number 3. Possibly, you know, possibly having that third place battle with South Africa, but they're still such a strong team. And as I said, you know how big they are when people outside of the rugby world know who the All Blacks are. You say the All Blacks, people know who you're talking about.
Number 1. Strange records held by Kiwis. According to the Guinness World Records, around 100 records have been attributed to New Zealanders, and there are some really odd claims to fame out there. Among some of these records are Martin Ruben de Jong's 2009 feat of running through 15 consecutive panes of glass.
Why?
The greatest distance between the same individual being ticketed by the same officer for the same offense, broken by Constable Andy Flinton. And Clint Holman, the first individual to receive a hand transplant operation after cutting off his hand with a chainsaw. The list goes on to include the most heads shaved in 1 hour for a Child Cancer Foundation fundraiser, a man that can throw a washing machine 4.015 meters or 13.17 feet, and the largest wasp nest discovered in 1963. If you like this video,
like and subscribe. Weird. Some interesting ones there. I would say it didn't really mention the food that much, so I'd love you to tell me, what is the national food of New Zealand? What's your favourite if you're from New Zealand? I'm definitely going to have to look more into some Kiwi inventions for sure. I think we all know about certain famous Kiwis, but I didn't even realise. I thought Russell Crowe was Australian. We know about certain wildlife in Australia, i.e. the kiwi, but I'm sure there's more. What else? I said it would be interesting to see a ladder of when women were given the right to vote. That would also be really interesting. I think we all know about we all know obviously about the sports and how you know it's a real big place for films. A nice little video there. It could have certainly gone into more detail, but I'm sure I can do that. If you've got any recommendations on Kiwi videos to watch, please put them in the description below or in the comments below or on my Discord server in the suggestions page, where I can actually look and see, and I can discover more about the New Zealand that I would love to travel to. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.